Hello everyone and welcome to Sum, Count, and Beyond, the Spreadsheet Source, Session 6. Today we will be learning about our second group of functions, the count family of functions. In the About section and in the banner image of our channel, you will see a link to a Google Drive folder that has the spreadsheets from all of the sessions. Each file will have at least 2 tabs, Try It Yourself and Solution. We would encourage you to have your own sheet open or download the file and follow along as we go through our examples together. Before we jump in, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Let's get to it. We are going to cover 5 different count functions today. Count, COUNTIF, COUNTIFs, count A, and count blank. At the most basic level, the count functions, as the name suggests, allows you to count the number of cells in a range quickly and easily. To add a wrinkle to today's session, we will be doing everything in Google Sheets. Cells B2 through G37 are the March sales report for Wando's Widgets, the worldwide winner with widget sales. Column B is the date the sale was made. Column C is the rep who made the sale. Column D is the item sold. Column E is the unit price of each widget. Column F is the number of each widget sold per order. And column G is the revenue generated by the sale. And it's a formula. Now that we understand what is on the page, let's start functioning. First, we are going to try the count function. The count function only works on numbers, dates, or numbers stored as text, which is just a number with a quotation around it. Let's say you are asked to report on the number of sales made in March. If you think back to session 2, you could go through and count how many cells are there, or highlight the range and use the status bar, or you can use the count function. So go over to cell I3, and we want it to read equals count F3 through F37, and then we'll close our parentheses, hit enter. And you should see 35 in cell I3. Now, if you think back to some of our other sessions, there is a couple different ways that you can select a range. So you could do what we just did and type the cells that you want to add, or you could do equals count and then click into F3 and then do a Command Shift down arrow and select all the way to the end of the continuous range and then close parentheses. Or, once again, you could do equals count and you could click over to F3 and then drag all the way down to F37. So, a lot of different ways you can do it, but ultimately gets you to the same answer. So now we're going to go over to J3 and we're going to enter equals count D3 through D37. We're going to close our parentheses there. And we see 0 with a dollar sign. So first of all, we want to get rid of that dollar sign. And Google Sheets has a format painter. So if we click I3, go over to format painter here, we can change it to be from a currency to a number. Now, back to the 0. So any guesses why we are seeing 0 in cell J3? If you guessed it's because column D doesn't contain any numeric values, congrats, you got it right. Second, we're going to try the COUNTIF function. Now, while we will show you how to use the COUNTIF function, as always, it is our job to do that. As a best practice, we recommend always using COUNTIFs instead of COUNTIF, and we will cover that in a little bit. Okay, on to COUNTIF. If you remember back to a few minutes ago, we mentioned that count can only be used on cells with numeric values. COUNTIF can be used to count numeric cells based on numeric and non-numeric criteria. The general setup for the COUNTIF function is equals COUNTIF, open parentheses, the range you want to look at, comma, the condition that range should meet. So let's say your boss wants to know 2 different things. First, the number of orders greater than 15 widgets, and the number of sales in the first half of March. So in cell K4, we're going to type 15. Remember, we're going to avoid doing our hard coding. And then in cell K3, orders more than 15 widgets, the formula should read equals COUNTIF, open parentheses, F3 through F37, comma, open quote, greater than sign, close quote, ampersand symbol, again, shift 7 on your keyboard, and then end it with K4, close our parentheses. And so now we see in K3 the number 27. And what that means is that there were 27 orders in March that were for more than 15 widgets. Okay, next we're going to look at the sales in the first half of March. And so we're going to go over to cell L3. And then in cell L3, we're going to do equals COUNTIF. Going to open, and our range is going to be B3 through B37. Then we're going to do our comma, and then it's going to be open quote, less than, close quote, ampersand L4. Close our quote or close our parentheses there, and you'll see that there is a 0 there, and that's because there's no date. So let's go to L4, and we're going to put in 3/16/22, and we see that there were 18 sales in the first half of March. So again, the reason that we like to use external references as opposed to hard-coded values in the cells is if we go back to K3, the order is greater than 15. If we wanted to see orders greater than 30, we could really quickly type 30 in and get that answer. And if we wanted to see sales in the first 10 days of March, we could do 3/11/22. And we'll get that number to change. Okay, so now we're going to move on to COUNTIFs. So as we mentioned earlier, our preference is to always use COUNTIFs instead of COUNTIF, and now we're going to talk through why. If we think back to a few minutes ago, COUNTIF in words is equals COUNTIF, open parentheses, the range you want to look at, comma, the condition that range should meet, close parentheses. For COUNTIFs, the formula is in words equals COUNTIFs, open parentheses, range 1 to look at, comma, range 1 condition, comma, range 2 to look at, comma, range 2 condition, so on and so forth, close parentheses. So while the difference between the two functions is much smaller than the SUMIF versus SUMIFs from session 5, defaulting to the ifs member of the count family will help make future changes easier. Okay, so back to the spreadsheet. Let's say we want to look at the number of orders that Kayla made for widget 2. So in M4, we're going to put Kayla, and in M5, we're going to put widget 2. So now if we go up to M3, we're going to do equals COUNTIFs, open our parentheses, and then it's going to be C3 through C37. And remember, we can lock that in if we want. So if we hit F4, we can lock that in. And then criteria 1 is going to be M4. Then we'll hit another comma. And we're going to do D3 through D37. And comma, M5. And then close our parentheses. So now we can see that Kayla had 0 orders with widget 2. And again, we can play around with this. So if we want to do Jim widget 1, we see that Jim made 3 sales of widget 1. Next, we're going to look at the count A function. Count A, or count all, is similar to count, with the notable exception being that it counts all cells regardless of whether or not they are numeric. So let's go over to cell N3 and do equals count A, C3 through C37. And we see that the number 35 populates, which means that there are 35 cells in this range. And so we can go over, take a quick look, and if we go to the bottom here in the status bar, we get 35. And now as an example, if we go back into this formula really quickly and we just take that A out, we see that it goes to 0 because we are looking at non-numeric cells. So let's do a Command Z and flip that back to count A. Finally, we're going to look at count blank. So count blank, which is very similar to count A, is that in this time it only counts blank cells. So if we head over to O3, we're going to do equals count blank. And if we do C3 through C37, we get the value 0. And that's what we would expect because there is a value in every cell from C3 down to C37. Now, if we were to expand this to, say, C38, we would see the value 1 because C3 through C37 all have values, and then C38 is our first blank cell. So now we're just going to do some formatting like we always like to do and clean it up. So first we're going to left align everything. So if we select our range here, we'll select it all, and then we'll go right up here to the horizontal alignment and do a left align. And again, this is just a best practice that your headers should match what the data below is. Let's expand out our columns a little bit. So remember, back to Excel, if you double click between two columns, it'll expand it out and auto fit it. So we'll go ahead and auto fit this. And jump over here. And then finally, just show you how to format in Google Sheets. Let's say, for example, that we want this to be 3/11/22 instead of 3/11/2022. Come up here to your ribbon, More Formats, and then we can do a custom date and time. And let's make it look like this. And we'll apply. And we see that instead of being 3/11/2022, it's now 3/11/22. And again, we can change. If we wanted this to be a currency, we could change it to be a currency using that same formatting for numbers over here in the top section. Okay, so congrats everyone. You just learned about the count family of functions. So to sum everything up, the count family of functions are extremely useful when trying to count the number of cells in a range. You can count on this session to help you understand how the count functions work and examples of how they can be used with a sample data set. And let's keep taking your spreadsheet knowledge beyond what you thought was possible.